Chapter 8 Uncle Goombah. In the winter of my 10th grade year, we were again living with my Uncle Rod and Aunt Mary, this time in a brick house on Highway 7, somewhere outside of Greenville, Kentucky. I had left my guitar and most of my belongings behind with the auctioneer in Missouri a few weeks before, so I was desperately wishing I had a guitar to play. Like all of my mother's brothers, Uncle Rod had a large Carnahan nose and a great smile, and he called everyone Goombah. I think it means good friend in German or Italian, or at least to him that's what it meant. In a closet in his bedroom, Uncle Rod had a beautiful Alvarez banjo that he played a little. He could do simple thumb and finger rolls and play songs like Cripple Creek and Oh Susanna, but that was about it. Though I had no idea how to play an instrument with only 5 strings, he generously let me spend my days trying to figure it out. I taught myself how to play 3 chords and was soon strumming it like a guitar and trying to write songs so I could sing along. The banjo was a great substitute, but it wasn't the same as a guitar, and Uncle Rod knew it. But times were very tough, and Mom couldn't come up with rent for her own house, let alone buy a guitar for her youngest son to play. So I resigned myself to the fact that I might not ever have another one. But then one day my luck changed. Like most teenagers in the early 80s, my hair was long and feathered. Not sure how that fad got started, but it seemed that no one of high school age was exempt from it. It started to get pretty unruly, so Aunt Mary took my cousin Aaron and me to get haircuts. Now, in Kentucky and most southern states, there are lots of characters, and I'm a big fan of characters. People who are bigger than life, who take their own unique path and aren't ashamed of it. Bob Bethel, the fiddlin' barber, was one of those guys. He had a single wide trailer where he cut hair, and while he was cutting, he was prone to breaking out his fiddle and playing a tune or two. I had never seen anything like it. I loved him right away, and lots of other folks did too. They would bring their instruments and hang around his barbershop and jam with him in the evenings or between customers. The afternoon we were there, it was just him, Aaron, Aunt Mary, and me, and while I was in the chair with the barber cape on, I noticed a guitar case over in the corner, and I asked Bob about it. He brought the case over, opened it up, and showed me the Bentley guitar inside. I'd never heard of a Bentley before, probably for good reason, but she was a beauty. Dark brown stained plywood and imitation pearl inlays. He smiled and said, "She's for sale." I got a big grin on my face, but then he followed with $50 and she's yours. He might as well have said 50,000. I sank back into the chair and Bob finished my haircut. As we headed home, I rode in the back seat of that long Chrysler, deep in thought, having been so close to something I wanted so badly, yet still so far away. When we got home, I didn't say anything to anybody about it. Not even my mom. I knew she didn't have any money and it would only hurt her to hear about something that I wanted that she had no way to provide. So all through dinner and that evening I was quiet, trying not to let the heartbreak show. Sometime after the dishes were done, Uncle Rod came in and asked me if I'd come back to his room. He said he wanted to show me something. So I followed him down the hallway to his and Aunt Mary's bedroom. When we reached the bed, he just pointed to a spot above the headboard and rubbed his chin. "The wall's missing something, don't you think? A picture or drawing, maybe? The spot's too empty." I just nodded and told him I guessed so. Then he snapped his fingers and said, "Hey, you've been doing some drawing, haven't you?" And I had. I was always drawing something on notebook paper and a little blank pad that I had. Then he said, "Can you show me what you got?" We walked back in the living room to the couch where I slept, and I pulled a few sketches out from underneath. He thumbed through them, and when he got to one of the Indian beside a buffalo, he said, "This is it. It's perfect." Then he took off of it toward his bedroom. I wondered what was going on and followed him. He took a couple of tacks, pinned my drawing on the wall above his bed, and said, "How much would you take for it?" I said, "Oh, it's free, Uncle Rod. You don't have to buy it." But he insisted. He pulled his leather wallet from his back pocket, found out 2 20s and a 10, then handed them to me. "Would this be enough? You'd be doing me a big favor. That empty spot's been driving me and your Aunt Mary crazy for months." Big tears filled my eyes. I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, son, really." And just like that, I had a brand new, cheap guitar to play. That guitar and that moment are a big part of how I've come to have the success in music and songwriting that I've had over the years. Because unlike many that I'd had before, that dream didn't have to go away. I love my Uncle Rod. He's my mom's brother, my cousin Aaron's dad. Aaron is now my manager and my best friend. His dad was the closest thing to a father that I had growing up. Like Bob Goff, one of my favorite writers, Uncle Rod had whimsy. He knew how to make life fun and could take the smallest event and turn it into something you'd remember for the rest of your life. He did that again a couple years later. He not only co-signed on my first car loan, but he also got me back on the road when I accidentally drove over a big rock that ripped the muffler system out from under it. But he didn't just loan or give the money to fix it. He told me an elaborate story how he'd been speeding on the way home from work when a cop saw him and hit the blue lights. Uncle Rod said he tried to outrun him through the back roads and cornfields and finally lost him as he pulled in the driveway. So anyway, he didn't want to take his car to work the next day. He asked if he could borrow mine and I would be doing him a favor. When he dropped the car back off to me that evening after work, it had brand new muffler and pipes, from the manifold to the bumper, and he didn't say a thing about it. He just did it, leaving another beautiful memory in the mind of a 17-year-old who desperately needed a man to leave one. Uncle Rod died last year. He was 78. He went in for a routine heart valve replacement and didn't come back out. My brothers, sisters, and I all either flew or drove to Oklahoma for his military burial. As a young man, Uncle Rod, I later learned, had been drafted into the Army and spent a few years in the hell of Vietnam and brought some of that war back with him, in him. He was troubled but full of love. There isn't a room that my Uncle Rod walked into from here to California that he didn't light up with his smile and his laugh, but mostly with his love. He touched a lot of lives, including mine. On a gravel road outside a power plant in Paradise, Kentucky, he gave his son Aaron the big sex talk, knowing full well that I was sitting on the other side of his son in the front seat. And when Aaron and I found ourselves in the Muhlenberg County jailhouse, it was Uncle Rod who came in the middle of the night, bailed us out, and told us that he hoped for more than that from us. And on the day I left for Marine boot camp and gave hugs to my mom and Aaron and my brothers and sisters, it was Uncle Rod who pressed into my hand a piece of paper with a typewritten note to me that I still have to this day. He knew that there are times a boy needs a father, and when that father isn't around, it falls on the shoulders of the next man in line. Again and again, Uncle Rod proudly took the role of surrogate father in my life. The letter reads as follows. Rory, take pride in your background. Take pride in yourself. Take pride in your country. Never take the freedom you enjoy for granted. Choose your friends wisely, then be there when you're needed. In your work and in your relationships, take care of the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves. And most of all, remember that your family love is unending. Enjoy and grow. Love, Uncle Rod. Before my time down here is over, I hope to make that kind of impact on someone, to have the gumption to not just help them, but to go the elaborate lengths to make them part of a bigger, better story, like Uncle Rod did with me. A story that will live long after the man who told it is gone.